people come to me and they go, hey, man, like, will you meet up with me for coffee? I go, absolutely. I'll do it. I have no problem doing it.
Right.
Then what happens is two things. One, someone meets me for coffee because they really want to pick my brain.
Yeah.
Two, someone meets me for coffee because they really want to let me know how much they know and how I need to recommend them for stuff.
Right.
And usually they know nothing and I cannot recommend them for anything.
Right.
And it's tough because I can't tell. I mean, I should just be like, dude, you're an asshole. You can't do it. But I don't do it. I just go, I'm just not going to. I really just give people the silent treatment.
Right.
So if you're listening to this and I don't call you back, but
hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions.
Occasionally.
Well, maybe.
Mostly.
Life is a fight.
It is.
In business, every day is a fight.
All day long.
So, hey, what's your problem?
Yes, thank you, John David Wells, the big voice guy for the show. Check him out at the Wells Report. He's on Facebook. If you search the Wells Report on Facebook, he should come up. He's doing a lot of live shows lately of the political nature, if you're into that kind of thing. Not so much my thing, but hey, it works for him. This is the What's Your Problem podcast, where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals about that one thing. It's always something about what we do that kind of keeps us up at night. I am your host, Jim McCarthy. I'm actually getting ahead of myself. This is a video and audio podcast. Go to whatsyourproblempodcast.com and check us out. Please subscribe, rate, review. Our big, hairy, audacious goal for 2023 going into 2024 is 10,000 average downloads per episode. If you can help us out with that by listening and sharing, that would be awesome. We're trying to shoot high. Shoot for the moon and land on the roof, as they say. And once again, I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com, and the very company that produces podcasts like this, It'sYourShow.co. And today, hailing all the way from Nashville, the man, the one and only, Keio Stroud. How you doing, my friend?
hey, how's it going, man?
Not bad, my friend. So you're actually you're a drummer.
I am a drummer.
And a musician.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Do you tell drummer jokes at all?
Yeah, every now and then.
Every now and then?
Depends how much beer I've had.
What's the, how do you know when the stage is level, when the drummer is drooling out both sides of his mouth?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So I can make jokes like these because I too am a drummer.
Yes.
So I have a license to do so.
They're good jokes too.
They are good jokes. You have one at the ready?
No.
Not at all.
I don't actually.
So we're going to get into it. First thing we do is kick off with the Dad Joke Challenge, which is a feature with Mr. Ed Fox and Trade Bank. So if you're a business that has languishing items on its shelf or a service, maybe things are slow, Trade Bank is an option you should look into. Reason being is because you can trade what you do for pennies on the dollar, basically your cost of goods, and trade with other businesses. It also plugs you into another network of other businesses here in the region that do trade as well. So, a little bit of a networking opportunity. Check them out. All the details are in the description, tradebanknashville.com. And Ed Fox is also a huge dad joke aficionado. And he records them and sends them to me, and he's the one who actually tells them. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
And the challenge is not really a challenge. No one wins, no one loses. You can laugh, you can cry, you can groan in pain, or you can say nothing and just say, get me out of here. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
There you go.
So why do cows have hooves instead of feet? Because they lactose.
Yeah. Because they're, dairy producers. Yeah.
Good.
Not bad. Keio's sitting here going, what did I get myself into? Let's go. Number 2.
What's the difference between an etymologist and an entomologist? An etymologist would know the difference.
Trying to figure that one out. What do you think?
That was not my favorite.
Maybe I need to know what an etymologist is.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I was like, what is that?
Here we go. Number 3, I promise.
The other day, my friend was telling me that I didn't understand what irony meant, which was ironic because we were standing at a bus stop at the time. What do you get when you cross a joke?
No. We're getting ahead of ourselves. What do we think of that one?
That's pretty good.
Not bad. All right, number 4.
What do you get when you cross a joke with a rhetorical question?
I think that's the joke.
That's it.
Nothing. Yeah. We have Kristen here off camera. She's holding back laughter. You're laughing though, aren't you? Yeah. And finally, the last one I promise. Here we go.
A man tried to sell me the coffin the other day. I told him that's the last thing I need.
It's pretty good.
That was pretty good. I like number one. Number one was my favorite.
You like number one?
Yeah.
There we go.
My daughter would laugh at that.
Nice.
She and I, we have a love for dad jokes.
You have an appreciation for it.
Yeah. And so does my friend Lindsay in Utah. Like, this sounds so silly. I'm going to tell you this and get a laugh about this.
Sure.
But part of our beginning of dating was me telling her dad jokes.
Right.
I would every day I would send her dad jokes.
Yeah.
And she would be like, "This is the stupidest.
Why are you doing this?
Why are you doing this?"
Yeah.
And I go, "Because you're laughing." She goes, "I'm laughing at you." I go, "Cool." And we're not together. So yeah.
Right.
But
And that ended that. Yeah.
I still send her dad jokes every day though. It was just pretty funny. So.
Well, at least you're still friends.
Yeah, we're still
friends.
friends.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That was the Dad Joke Challenge by Trade Bank and Ed Fox. Check him out. All the details and everything and links are in the description. And let's get into it, man. So you and I have a mutual friend in Rich Redmond. That's how we met on his podcast. When,
we did.
You guested on it.
I did.
And there was, it was intriguing because I'm always interested to hear about people who went on a path that I almost went down. Being a musician professionally and stuff like that, I just never had the cojones, the C.O. Jones to do it because it takes a lot of courage. It's a high risk business, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's courage meets stupidity meets hunger, meets
desperation,
just like being lost. It's like there's so many ways to describe it because everybody's path to getting somewhere is so different.
Right.
Like some people, it's pure luck.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but it is. I say pure luck as in you didn't mean to do it, but you did everything right.
Right.
But you weren't trying to.
Right.
And there are people who try so hard and get nowhere. And then there are people who just kind of go, well, I guess I'll move to Nashville and see what happens.
Really?
And then they walk into one place and they meet one person, and that one person says, "My name is blah, 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 blah." And next thing you know, they're a big old star and you're playing in their band.
So you know these people that that is they have kind of not scarlet letters, but perceptions.
I know people that have moved to I won't say any names, but it's all good. It's nothing bad. But I know guys who moved to town, went to play on Broadway, played maybe 2-3 shifts on Broadway, and next thing you know, they had a big gig.
What is a big gig in your opinion?
Well, he ended up getting the Aldean gig.
Oh, really? Okay. But he put his time in, though. Yeah.
So, but Aldean did. The guitar player I'm talking about, I'm not saying he didn't put his time in, but he had just moved to Nashville, and we knew that he wasn't going to be on Broadway very long. Right. Because he was so good. We knew that he was going to get a gig. And it may not have been Aldean. I think the first gig was something else. Maybe Gretchen. Right. But either way, it was something like that, where it was like, "Oh, hey, man, have you seen so-and-so?" No, he got of course he did, because he's amazing. So it's literally like playing the lottery. Yeah. In a way. And I'm also not saying that he did not put any work prior to that, but just when I met, at the time that I met that person, I saw him 3 times, and I think we moved to town roughly the same time, and he was light years ahead of a lot of people. Just in skill, business, and just a sweetheart of a dude. So you mentioned business. I mean, having some sort of a business acumen. Yeah, you can tell the people that don't and do, and that matters 100%. Really, that's to me that is the difference between longevity and not. Right. People who know business are ones who will be here for a long time. Right. Because they know how to ebb and flow with change. Because as we all know, in business, things change. Oh yeah. Even toilet paper changes. I know it sounds so silly. I think I talk about I always talk about toilet paper because it's the silliest shit in the world, but it's a necessity in life. Almost. Totally. And there's a lot of technology that goes into toilet paper. You know what I mean? Quilted, double ply. Yeah. Remember when we were kids? It was like, oh man, toilet paper, cool. People go buy it. I didn't. My parents would go buy it, and you're like, all right, here we go. And then all of a sudden, as you start to pay attention, you're like, there's commercials, and they're comparing why their toilet paper is better than the other toilet paper.
Right.
And those companies are still around.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, it's things like, oh, well, this one went out of business because this one bought them or they couldn't keep up or whatever. It's like, it's a really goofy thing to think about that. And I'm, like when I was talking about toilet paper, but anyway, but it's just like, there's a lot of things that go into that and good business goes into that. And just like being a musician is the same way, where it's like anybody can pick anyone, but if you want longevity, if you want to be around, you got to have a business sense. You got to know when to change things, when to go with the flow, if you're a guitar player, it's like all of a sudden guitar amps are kind of not out of fashion, but live, but people are going more to like a digital fractals and all that stuff. And
like a DI box, right?
Yeah. And it's like, if you're not tech savvy enough to do that, sometimes you won't get the gig.
Now, does everybody, because I just talked to a guy recently, being a drummer, this is going to sound pathetic. One of my dream gigs, like the next portion of my life, I'd love to be in a tribute band of some sort. And it would be like a Huey Lewis and the News tribute band. I think that would be fun.
Do it.
And I just met a guy. They're playing at the Franklin Theater. And he was at my BNI this morning networking. And I said, man, if you ever need a sub or anything, you guys I said, I would pour my heart and soul into this.
Yeah.
It would be like a Heart of Rock and Roll kind of thing. Go figure. No pun intended.
There you go.
And he's like, I said, just send me your files. I'll play back to him and learn the show inside and out. And I said, I'll just do it for fun. And if you're ever in a pinch, hey, give me a buzz.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, cool. And it's one of those things that I always thought that I would have to put the band together. I'm like, crap, if there's already one out there.
Yeah.
Apparently there is.
Wow.
And, I know I have business acumen in a lot of different areas. But when someone comes to town, can you tell, like within the first 5 or 10 minutes of talking to them, like, oh, yeah, you're going to have a rough go of it, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. You meet people and good example. I have people, according to the world and the way things go, I would be successful in the music business.
Right.
And people come to me all the time and go, hey, man, like, how do I get to be like you? And I'm like, you don't want to be like me. but people come and they'll say, they'll send me a private message or whatever. Like, hey, man, like, I'm moving to Nashville. Like,
how do I do what you do?
How do you do? Or people say, I need to talk to you. Okay, cool. And I'm cool with it. Like, obviously people did it to me. So I'm totally cool with meeting people. And, things were a little different when I moved to town. You didn't really you just couldn't really like reach out to your favorite person because there was no social media. You know what I mean? So you couldn't just be like, hey, I'm gonna friend Brent Mason on whatever. I'm gonna friend Eddie Bears on this, and then I'm gonna shoot my shot and hopefully they'll give me a shout back. It was like you had to go see where they're playing and then wait through 15 to 20 of their friends saying hi to them and then catch them in their car going, hey man, I'm a big fan, would love to talk to you about something, you know what I mean? And if you were cool, they'd be like, yeah, man. If you were dumb, they'd be like, oh yeah, man, whatever. I got a lot of yeah, man, it's whatever. But anyway, so you I just completely forgot what I was saying here. Sorry about that. But you do know, like within the first bit, and people come to me and they go, hey man, like will you meet up with me for coffee? I go, absolutely, I'll do it. I have no problem doing it.
Right.
Then what happens is two things. One, someone meets me for coffee because they really want to pick my brain.
Yeah.
Two, someone meets me for coffee because they really want to let me know how much they know and how I need to recommend them for stuff.
Right.
And usually they know nothing and I cannot recommend them for anything.
Right.
And it's tough because I can't tell. I mean, I should just be like, dude, you're an asshole. You can't do it. But I don't do it. I just go, I'm just not going to, I really just give people the silent treatment.
Right.
So if you're listening to this and I don't call you back, but it's very interesting. Like someone will meet with you, they'll ask you a question and then they'll interrupt you and answer the question, let you know they know the answer.
Right.
And it's like, yes, you know the answer, but you don't know the experience to come to that answer.
Right.
Yes, you should do this, you should do that. And then I go, well, if you know this already, then why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Because you want me to get you gigs.
Yeah.
You're letting me know that, man, I'm ready. As opposed to going, hey man, I'm just trying to figure this out. What should I do? And even if you know the answer, even if you know what I'm saying, you go, cool, thank you. All right, sweet. And then at least at that point in time, my answer or whoever's answer is say you meet with 4 different people. and say 3 people give you the answer that you have in your head already, that means that you're on the right path.
Right.
So take that as opposed to telling me what the answer is and then telling the other person what the answer is, the other person, because that's a turnoff for anybody. Like if you were to go to a business, that is a business meeting, but if you're in a different line of work and someone was like trying to sell you something or came to you for advice about something and then was like, oh yeah, and you're gonna do this for me, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna, because I know you're gonna do this, I know this and that, and you're like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, I didn't say anything like that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. So, those people that are usually the ones who have a rough go, especially the first 5 years.
Yeah,
and then depending on age, because age is a factor. If you're 18 to 23 when you do that, you can salvage things because you'll make a big mistake real fast, and hopefully people will forget about that. If you're a little older, you kind of can't afford to make those mistakes,
right?
Just because people don't forget, because they don't forgive you for being young.
Well, I mean, if you're older though, you've got, if you're successful in another area, maybe you've already honed and smoothed out the rough edges of networking, discovering and nurturing relationships, because that's also a lot of what people are doing too when they meet with you. Totally. Is the understanding that, hey, it's a relationship, and this person,
yes,
I want to be where they are, so I want to surround myself with more of these people and try and build my career from there, right?
That is true. The only difference is between any other business and our business is that you, especially for touring, you live with people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to not only be like, oh, this person's cool. This person is cool to be around 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like the only time, it depends on what kind of tour you're doing. If you're doing a van tour, you're with that person all the time.
Yeah.
If you're doing buses.
In a van at that.
Yeah. If you're on a bus, which is can be even smaller than a van sometimes, you're with that 16 hours. And if you're doing flight dates with people, you got at least 6 or 7 hours with them, and you still got to be able to tolerate them, especially if you're all side guys. If things have worked out to where you're in a band and you only get to see each other on stage, that's a little different, because then you're that's an ownership thing too. You own something, so you can be difficult if everybody's okay with you being difficult.
Right.
But if you're a side guy like what I do, you can never be difficult, because there's someone else that does close to what I do that's not difficult that they will hire.
Yeah. They're gonna want to get them in.
Yeah. And just like anything else, like if you go, if there's 2 coffee shops and one coffee shop has better coffee and they're assholes and the other one has not so great but they're nice people, you always go back to the nice people.
It's always attitude over aptitude.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like 100%. And I'll say that's the secret of my success.
Yeah. No, but you're a good player. You're very skilled.
I'm badass, man.
That's right.
About? No,
I don't disagree.
I know I do. But I play drums well, but I get along with others better.
Right.
Like I grew up with great family, and they taught me early on that you have to be nice to people, and that you just have to adapt also.
Was it a musical family you came from?
Musical family. Everybody plays. Like, everybody plays. Like, everybody plays. Like, they're probably playing something right now.
Whereabouts we're from?
I'm from Athens, Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad's side of the family, they're all musicians. And my mom's side of the family, I'm not sure what the hell they do. Right. Actually, they're all, like, doctors and shit on that side of the family. They're all super smart. Everybody in the family is, like, smart except for me.
Right. Well, whatever. Come on.
Okay, everybody else
very, very well spoken.
They're all really smart, and I'm like, kind of smart. I'm smart enough to do this, or dumb enough to do what I'm doing.
You're playing with people who make gold records. Crazy.
Yeah, and they're proud of it. They like it. They enjoy seeing that stuff.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my buddy Sam Banks. I know we're a little off topic, but I was talking to my buddy Sam Banks last night or yesterday about this. His little boy said, "Man, when I grow up, I want to be a dad." And he's like, because dads are cool.
Yeah.
And Sam's a guitar player, and his singer-songwriter. And it was funny because like his 2-year-old is looking at him going, I want to be cool. You're a cool person.
Yeah.
I want to be like you. And my daughter was the same way. She's like, I want to be like you. Not that they don't want to be like their moms, but like I want to be like you. And you kind of forget sometimes, like, man, what you do for a living is kind of cool.
So your kid thinks what you do is cool.
Yeah, she still does. It's weird. She's almost 17.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Yeah.
Because most kids don't.
They couldn't care less.
Yeah.
My kids couldn't care less about what I do.
There's a part of her, I will say, there's a part of her that doesn't care.
Yeah.
But then there's a part of her that does care. Because she's like, because she wants to do it also.
Is she in town or?
So, no, she lives in Wisconsin. So, yeah, she's a good old Midwestern girl.
Right.
But yeah, she lives there. But she wants to move to Nashville and do music. She wants to either be a musician, which she does play. She plays drums and piano and guitar. But we recently just talked about her trying to like get like an administration job, like working at BMI or ASCAP or record label or something like, just to do stuff because she wants to move here and be around music because she's passionate about music. And I said, I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Not by no means am I discrediting her ability to play an instrument. But I know for myself, at the age I'm at now, I'm going, I kind of want to do that myself. Yeah. I kind of want to get into having some sort of gig like that. I wouldn't mind. I mean, I love drumming, and I will always be a drummer. And I'll always tour and do sessions or whatever. But I was like, man, it could be cool to have I don't want to call it a day job, but it'd be cool to like
have a 9 to 5.
Yeah, it could be fun to work for a publishing company. It could be cool to work for anything that has a process, a creative process. Even so, like there's the creating process, and then there's like the administration part of the creative process, which I've spent many years on one side of it, and I was like, could be cool to be on the other side of it, being that I did the other side.
Like an administrative back office type of.
Yeah, right. Because I know music, I think. I know bad music.
Right.
Which is important.
Well, I think in that sense, but I mean, as far as like, bean counting and all that stuff.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean,
want to put a bullet in your mouth.
Yeah. But, it's like I could do that because I know what it's like to be on the road. And one of the things that I'm kind of an advocate about, especially with like management and things like that is, and even like accountants, is that I've lived on the road and I know that sometimes you have to cut corners, but for the morale of being on the road and your artists and the people that work for you, there's certain things that you may want to cut because you've never experienced them. Yeah. And you should experience them before you decide you want to cut them. Right. Because it might be somewhere else to cut corners to save money. So, and this is just an example. I'm just using this as an overall business example because we're talking about toilet paper earlier. Yeah, that's right. So, say you're at 30 Rock, and all of a sudden 30 Rock's like, well, we're going to have to cut some corners, so we're going to go to the cheapest toilet paper ever. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So everybody in that building, the first week is like, something's different. Not sure what it is. The next week, they're like, something's different. People get a little grouchy. 4 weeks in, everybody's pissy. They're like, why is everybody pissy? Because something changed. As silly as it is, the fact that the toilet paper changed the entire building changed the entire attitude of everybody that works there. As goofy as that is, think about that. Yeah. So touring is the same way. So if you cut a corner on something that you think might be small to you because you go, whatever. Yeah. But it's big to everyone else, that will definitely, it'll knock morale down. It'll make things harder for people on the road. All of a sudden, people start to butt heads because it's just little, those little things that you need, like, just to give you your thing, because you're not at home. You're not at, you don't get to be at home to like get away from people.
When you start, chafing your exhaust pipe, that's going to happen.
Yeah, I always tell people, it's like, you know what? I'll be as professional as your bathroom. We're talking about, because when you go to, when you do like the club circuit, you're like you show up, if you, say you're on a bus or whatever, I've done 2 van tours my entire life. Right. I've been a very, very lucky dude. Like, I've never had to do that. Like, I would think that is a living hell. Yeah. And it was kind of fun because it's like my buddies, but we almost killed each other. Right. I literally almost killed each other. But it's like you show up to a club or festival. Mm-hmm. I just say, be the one of those. And you're like, all right, it's morning time, whatever, and you're like, well, you go to the bathroom for whatever reason, and you go there, and like they haven't cleaned it from the night before,
Right.
or the backseat or it's just gross, or you're at a festival and you're like, and so one day after a couple of years of this, I was talking to the tour manager about something, and I was like, man, what the, just kind of giving the business. I said, you know what? Today I'm gonna be as professional as their bathrooms are.
Right.
Is what I said to him. And he looked at me and he goes, what does that mean? I go, well, if the bathroom's horrible, I'm gonna be difficult to deal with today. And he just goes, are you serious? I go, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, I'm serious.
Because that matters.
Because it matters. And he just starts laughing at me. And then give it like a year later, he was like, dude, you're right.
Yeah.
Because I never thought about that.
That's deep, man. Yeah.
I guess it's just this. I guess once again, it's the small things that matter. And not that I feel horrible to keep talking fucking bathrooms, but
right. Bathrooms and toilet paper.
Toilet paper. But
now we have a title for the podcast.
There you go.
There we go.
So, but but once again, it's just those things that people don't. If you don't live it, you will cut the corners, and that's part of business too. Where it's like if you're someone who is now the CEO of a company and you started off as a janitor, that means you've probably had every job getting there.
Yeah.
So when you get to the top, if you're pretty awesome, it's because you understand everybody's struggles.
You've been there.
Because you understand like what's cool about the job, and everybody knows what's cool about the job. No one's going to complain about what's cool about the job.
Right.
But what will always happen is people will talk about the negatives of the job, and if you've had every job, you can relate to it. You can relate to it.
You've been there. You've done the job,
and then you can say, "Hey, man, yeah, I know. So, give me a solution."
Yeah,
and people, and obviously, it's like if your boss comes to you and says, "Hey, man, like, give me a solution to entertain for this problem," even if he does not do it, you go, I like this guy.
Yeah. Because at least they're trying to figure out.
They're trying to figure out.
They're being proactive.
It may not be a priority for them, but at least they came to you and said, "What's bothering you, and how can I make it better?"
And that's a huge part of culture building, because culture is a big part of the road too. I mean, you got to have, like you're talking about, a good guy that's on the bus. For example, recently I did an on the road podcast on a tour bus. Because one of the guys that's in the actual podcast is a member of Locash, and he used his bus, and it was like a real estate thing. We traveled out to Henderson, Tennessee, not Hendersonville, but it was way west of here, and a good hour and a half ride. So I was in the back lounge area with all my stuff. I ran all the wires they had up in the kitchen area where they were doing the podcast. All the other realtors were sitting there. Let me tell you, after 2 hours of riding that thing, I was done. I was like, just get me out of this thing. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, you really, once you get past that, you better be cool to hang with.
Bro.
So maybe I'm not cut out for it.
I've been on 36-hour bus rides.
Oh my gosh. We got to like northern Canada?
I've been from Nashville to Prince George.
I mean, Canada. What do you sit in your condo bunk and on your phone, watch movies?
Dude, this is before that even. This is Ava was not even a year old yet. So my daughter was
watching on your Discman,
mobile DVD player. I had a, you know what? I remember this very well. I got some sort of MP3 player that for Christmas, and I think it had like maybe 5 gig on it. Which is like
massive,
huge. And I was able to put like.
Did it have the spinning platter inside, like an iPod?
It was man. I can't remember who made this, but I got 2 things. So I'm not a big holiday person, like at all. But my ex-in-laws gave me this MP3 player, and they gave me a digital picture frame that just had like revolving. I could put like 10 different photos on it, and it'll just like revolve around.
Yeah.
So I forget, but I think I was able to put like 4 or 5 like CDs on this MP3 player. Like it wasn't a whole lot, so it was probably even smaller than 5 gig, But I was able to do that, and then I had this picture frame, and so I said in my bunk, I velcroed it up, and I just looked at photos of my daughter as a kid. and just listen to the same 5 records over and over.
And after that, I would get in the shower with my clothes on and turn it on cold.
I mean, it was like,
God, bring me to death as soon as you can, please.
Oh man, and it was wintertime too, man. So we went from Nashville all the way up there, and then when we got into Canada, we had to put chains on the buses.
Oh God, you had to do it?
Oh, I didn't have to do it, but someone did.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't do shit.
Talk about a culture killer.
There I was sitting there still going, oh my God, my kid's so cute. This song again. But
they're jacking the bus up again. Here we go.
Yeah, you could, and it was rough, man. But it was, but you made it work, and then that was a good actually a really, really great group of dudes because we were all kind of be in our bunks for about 8 hours, and then Metal Mania, I think is what it was on MTV that used to come on. Mm-hmm. And so we played a drinking game where you had to guess the next video. and the premise is that you're gonna lose because no one knows.
Yeah, right.
And so
especially in a metal genre.
Yeah. So it's like we were just guessing, and I would always go Crocus. Every time it was there, every time it was my time. So I ended up getting the nickname Ronnie James Keio out there. Nice. Because those were my two, Crocus and Dio. Those were my two choices. It was hilarious though, because we would it was like, all right, the video would play, and we're like, okay, next video, and everybody would like put out their deal, and then it would play, and it would be nobody, so everybody would drink. And then, and that was the whole deal. So if your video came up, you didn't have to drink.
People got drunk.
Oh, very fast. It was like an hour in, or I'm like, I think Britney Spears is gotta be next. It's a metal show.
I don't care.
Yeah, it was.
We're having fun.
I remember we had to one time we drank so much beer we had to pull over and dump the trash out.
Oh my gosh.
Because it was no fun.
But the thing is that, I know for a fact on the bus there's no number 2.
No.
You don't do number 2 on the bus.
No.
But I mean, if you're drinking that much beer,
we're just peeing.
You got to contend with beer farts the next day, right?
But we were, yeah. But everybody was good.
And they're the worst kind.
Yeah, everybody was pretty good though. We were funny. We were a funny group of dudes. We were all young. I mean, everybody was single and very fun. So it was like there was no drama. Right. It was just a bunch of funny dudes drinking beer, having a good time all the way to Canada and back.
Oh my gosh!
And
how many shows you have to play in Canada for that?
We did 2 weeks.
Okay, it's a worthwhile.
Yeah, and it was actually how I ended up. What's funny was that run was my introduction to Big and Rich.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who had the gig before you? Because I remember their videos of ride a horse, save a horse, ride a cowboy.
So they've had several drummers actually.
Right.
So the original drummer in the band was a guy named Brian Barnett, who unfortunately he passed away a few years ago. He was great, and Brian played on the records, along with a couple of guys I think Tommy Harden's on the records, and so is Wayne Killius, I think, is on some stuff. And then after him came Larry Babb, who is the man.
Right.
And he was in my opinion, he was their best drummer. He was the best drummer they had.
Right.
Just hands down. I mean, and they've had some great drummers, but he's my favorite. And he was on that tour that I did where I met those guys. And then when they got back together again, they had a rotation of guys. They had Larry, Brian Pruitt, Kevin Murphy, and then Lester Stell.
I think I might have seen Lester with them.
Very possible.
Yeah.
And then Lester
he lives right over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was funny. I was driving in and I was like, I've been down here before, And so then when Lester left, they had auditions. And so I went to audition and did not get the gig, which is fine, whatever. I auditioned for the gig twice and didn't get it. And then got it. Magically just got the gig. But then Travis McNabb played with him for a while. And then when Travis left is when I came in.
Travis McNabb.
Yeah. Travis, he played in, but he was the drummer for Better Than Ezra.
Oh, that's right.
And then Sugarland for a long time.
Yeah, he's got a head of hair like no one's business.
Yeah,
right?
man. And great drummer. You know? So I came in, he ended up getting the Gavin DeGraw gig. And so I came in and then I was there and I did not leave for almost 8 years.
Yeah.
I was the dude. I was it was what I was looking for in life. I had been, from reading the list of people there, it was because I didn't have a steady gig. Yeah. I was always just playing with people, doing records or whoever, doing showcases, whatever. And then when that came along, it was like, oh, I have a job.
That's that steady job.
I have a steady job, and I'm going to do this for a while. And it allowed me to spend more time with my kid. It allowed me to just breathe.
Right.
I felt guilty about it. I was like, oh man, I'm only playing drums like 5 times this month and I'm making money, you know, but it was like, and I felt weird about it. And I was like, oh, and then I remember Ava's granddad he goes, Keio, man, you deserved it, man. Take a break.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be like,
it's a season in life. Just enjoy it.
He's like, you don't have to be slammed all the time. Like, enjoy it. Come hang out with your kid. Come do other stuff, whatever. And I did.
Well, I mean, here you go. I mean, your credits are the who's who of people that work in around town that people know. I mean, you played with D. Snyder, for crying out loud. Did you record for him?
Yeah. I played a live gig with him. Yeah.
Did you?
And we recorded something too, I think, yeah.
Mr. Smiley. I mean, the guy's constantly smiling.
He's hilarious.
He's got like 100 teeth.
Dude, he's so funny.
Right.
We had a good time with him.
He's an old radio guy.
Yeah.
He had a morning show in Hartford, opposite Howard.
Yeah, he and I had a really good afternoon of like chatting.
Did you?
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every bit of it.
He seems like a really intelligent dude.
He was really, really cool, really funny, really intelligent, and just I was like, I see why it's so funny.
He's a good businessman.
You meet people like him. I would say this: you meet people like him, meet people like John Rich, Big Kenny, Cowboy Troy, and you go, I see why you guys are successful.
Yeah,
you have a thing.
Yeah,
like you have it. It's like I get it.
Yeah,
I want some of that.
Do I have that thing, you think?
Yeah, man, you get it. Look at you, you're successful.
I don't know about that. I'm working on it.
But it's funny though. You work with Richard Marx was the same way. You work with that guy and you're like, I get it. And there's a handful of people like that.
Is it just an aura, like the?
It is. It's an aura. It's what it is. It's
charisma.
It's people who believe in themselves.
Yeah, hustle,
and not even in a bad way. Like Rich has it. Where it's like Rich believes he's Rich Redmond, so he's Rich Redmond.
But he's a juggernaut because not only does he have a gig that's lightning in a bottle, but he's also, it wasn't who Rich knew. It transitioned and pivoted. And I've been friends with him for 15 years now. Yeah, it's who knows Rich.
Yeah.
At this point.
Totally.
He's on the level of like an old school, gosh, I can't think of the guy's name. Like Lonnie Wilson or one of those types of guys.
Totally, yeah.
He's in that A list.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
Eddie Bayers.
Yeah, and that's where you want to be. I mean, I went to breakfast with Eddie recently, and it was so good.
Yeah,
it was like it started off as like 20 minutes of breakfast.
Yeah,
4 hours later.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go." I was like, "Yeah, me too, Eddie."
And it's funny because coming into it, we came to Nashville from Vegas. And radio brought me here. Okay. I worked for Mix 92.9 and Jack FM in 05. And my wife and I took our first vacation by ourselves in our marriage. We went to Tampa. And because Nashville was a prospect, we started listening to the country stations. Oh, yeah. And we really got into it because it was nice for us. It was a genre of music that really resonated with us because otherwise none of our music ever aligned.
Gotcha.
But now we could finally have, on the same page with something.
Yeah, so totally.
A lot of it was rock oriented. It was the mid millennium, the first 5 years of the millennium. Uh-huh. And Aldean was coming out at that point. You had Montgomery Gentry. McGraw was still having hits. You had Kenny Chesney doing his thing. Sugarland started coming out, and all this, because I'm a player. Yeah. It was like straight ahead rock song. I'm like, oh, I could do this, And then I meet Rich for the first time 2 or 3 years into our time here, and I saw what he did. I'm like, oh no, I can't do this. No,
you can do it, man. You won't do it like him, but you can do it.
No, it's
and that's the thing, and that's what's really funny though. It's like when you are aware.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about people moving to town and good business, bad business. Awareness is good business.
Yeah.
And
self-awareness.
Yes. Self-awareness is big. And one of the things you should always be aware is that, you can do that. You just may not do it like that person.
Right. Which
is then can make or break, things later down the road for you if you want to do it for a career or not for a career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that just, you can do anything.
Right.
You just may not be able to do it like that.
You mentioned Kevin Murphy earlier, and he's one of these guys that is just unfiltered. He really just put his opinion out there. I appreciate that about him.
Yeah, same.
And Rich is very PR sensitive.
Yes,
and that's his thing. He loves everybody genuinely. That's who he is. But man, I mean, when we had Kevin on Rich's show, there was no taboo topic for him.
No. He's an open book, man.
Yeah.
And I commend him for it. I'm not. I'm a weird one where I don't really have a whole lot of opinions about things.
Yeah.
I'm a very strange person in that.
But having opinions about, inside baseball of the industry.
Yeah.
And he's shared that before. I mean, can that hurt a guy or help them?
Well, here's the deal. It can.
Yeah.
But a person like Kevin and a person like Rich, a person like Eddie Bears, Lonnie Wilson, Ben Caesar, those guys can't be denied of their talent.
Right.
And
the attitude
and what they bring.
Are they a good hang?
Yeah. And what they bring to the organization, not everybody can bring to it.
Right.
And so therefore, I'm not gonna say you put up with that at all.
Right.
But they do a thing that allows them to be who they are.
Right.
100% who they are. And that's the goal that we all want to have. Is that you can be 100% who you are. You never have to walk on eggshells around people, whatever. People just know who you are, but they know what you do, and you do it well, and they want what you do.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that is the ultimate success, is where you can be
be yourself.
And people know it. And being yourself isn't like being an asshole. I'm not saying that Kevin's an asshole or that Rich is an asshole, or people being super nice because you're opinionated.
Yeah.
It's just that people know where you stand, and that's important.
Yeah.
I like it if I walk in a room and someone's like, I don't like you, I'm like, thank you. I won't be talking to you. And I'm not mad at them at all. They can. Right. I'm not gonna be like, why don't you like me? I'm like, cool, you don't like me. There's 19 other fucking people I want to talk to, so I'm gonna talk to these other people, and you can do whatever you want to do. If I see you, I'll say hi to you. You'll probably say hey to me, but you don't have to like me.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Right.
And you told me, so that's our relationship. We don't like each other, or you don't like me, so therefore I'm just not gonna talk to you.
And I'm a fan of Kev. I've seen him play. He's a beast.
Oh, he's a great drummer.
I'm not throwing shade at all. I think I love his ability to be himself.
No, I think it's great. I mean, there's a lot, but what's so fun though is Kevin does post his, he posts his opinions and all that stuff. There are a lot of people who do that. Jerry Rowe is another one. Jerry doesn't shy away from what he does or who he is, and I commend him for it.
Yeah,
it's like I'm not those guys. I'm not saying unfortunately, but I'm just not those guys. I just don't have opinions.
Right.
I mean, I do, I have opinions, but they're so weird and so just I have
when you get into the political, religious side of things, I have opinions, but nobody cares about them. It's about stuff I can't control.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's my deal, right? I'm a person where I only speak about things I can control.
Right.
Or things that I can shed light on.
Yes.
So
totally
if
agree.
someone's like 2 + 2 is 6, I'm like, no, it's not. It's 5. No, I'm joking. But I can. At that point, I can talk to you about something, or I'll say, hey, this is this, that, and the other. But I'm also the dude where it's like, most people don't care what I have to say. They just want me to play drums, or people just want me to be me.
Yeah.
Just go, hey, I'm calling Keio to come over because he's nice and we're gonna laugh and crack some jokes, or my buddy Paul. I have a new best friend named Paul. He's great. I gotta tell you. Sorry, I'm telling you this weird story, but I met Paul in St. Augustine 2.5 weeks ago.
Right.
I'm there for a songwriter festival that my buddy Arliss puts on. It's great. It's hilarious. It's fun. We were good times, right? And there was this guy that on the bill, and his name was Paul Curver. I was like, how do you pronounce this guy's name?
Yeah.
Who is this person? I was all those songwriters oh, I know this person's person. I was I don't know this guy at all, right?
Yeah.
So I still can't pronounce his last name. So there's that. But Paul came from film and TV.
Yeah.
So he was an editor producer dude who is also a songwriter, who moved to Nashville to pursue his thing as a songwriter. But he's my new best friend. But Paul and I had coffee. We've had coffee twice since we've been back from St. Augustine. The first one was 2 hours long, and we just talked about random stuff. And then this past one was 4 hours, and it was me talking about this current kind of breakup thing I'm going through.
Right.
Religion, sinking work, and everything. Like, we just covered so much stuff.
Yeah.
And then when we were done, we're like, all right, man, see you next week. Like, yeah, man, I'll see you next week.
It's almost like you need a podcast or something.
And it was so funny because like he's like just this dude that I met. So we're in St. Augustine, and I see him. I'm like, hey man, like what's your name? He's like, oh, hey, I'm Paul. I was like, oh, you're the guy that I don't know, you know. So
how do you say your last name?
Yeah, I was like, yeah. He's told me like 10 times. I'm like, yeah, Smith.
Paul O.
Yeah. So what's so funny is that in the 4 days he and I hung out every day.
Nice.
And we literally became like best friends. so it's like, so and I go, my best friend, he's my phone is my best friend Paul. And
my BFF.
But one of the funniest things that we shared with, which let us know that we were best friends, was we got into an Uber, not sober, and it was the smallest clown car I'd ever seen in my life. And we get in this thing, and the first thing the guy does is wants to tell us jokes. And I was like, no, okay, whatever. So he tells a couple jokes. We're laughing. So we get to our hotel, and he goes, hey guys, I got one more joke for you. And I was like, I'm done with this shit. I gotta get out of here. Yeah. And Paul's like, okay, man, come on, give it to us, you know. Yeah. So this guy, I'm not making this up. He puts on a wig, like a Biden wig. He turns up, was it Hail to the Chief, whatever the song is, the presidential song, you know, he puts it on, and then his visors, he knocks him down, and 2 American flags pop down. And then he gets a mannequin. I don't even know where it came from. A mannequin out of nowhere. He comes and starts sniffing. He goes, and that's all he does. And I was like, what in the absolute hell is just happening? And Paul just goes, man, what else you got? And he goes, and he just goes, no one puts baby in the corner. Pulls the string and a baby just flies out like a little baby doll.
Oh my god!
Just starts flying out of the corner. I was like, Paul, we're best friends now. He
That's
goes,
right.
yeah, man.
We are forever bonded with this experience.
We're forever bonded with this that experience. And that was at 2:30 in the morning.
Of course.
And then at 3 a.m., the fire alarm goes off in the hotel. And so Paul and I find ourselves back outside.
Let's get that Uber guy back. He'll entertain us.
It was hilarious. But anyway, sorry, that's my fun and Paul story. And then Willie Nelson has a song called Me and Paul.
Yeah.
And Paul was his drummer. Paul's not a drummer, but Paul's a songwriter. So I always like listen to Me and Paul go, hey man, we got a song, man. It's like we're like Willie and Paul, man, you know?
That's funny. So you were always, your family was into music. How long you been playing? Like since you were 3, 4?
Yeah, okay. I'm one of those dudes. I wasn't very good then. I just played.
But what was your trajectory like? Did you want to go to Did you know you're going to go to LA, Nashville, New York at some point?
So my thing is kind of weird. So I grew up playing in church and my dad had a top 40 band. My grandfather had like a jazz like society. We call them society bands. That's what they call them. You know, the old folk. So I played in those bands, and then they also had like gospel groups that I worked in also that I played drums in. But my dad's from my dad doing like the frat party circuit, he met a bunch of bands that were based out of Nashville because back in the day when you could have frat parties, un-PC frat parties, there'd be a row of them, and there'd be a band at every one of them. And so my dad would let me come to, even if I wasn't playing, he would let me come to frat parties with him, which is like probably child abuse now. When you think about it, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Some of the things I saw, I'm like, ah! Or I'm like, hey. At least I know why I'm so kind of jacked up now. But anyway, but from doing that, I met several people, and one of the bands was a guy named Tyrone Smith, Super T. And he and my dad and this guy Charles, who was like kind of the manager of my dad's band, they were all really good buddies. And so he would always be like, hey, man, you know, you good drummer, man. You know, if you ever want to move to Nashville, you let me know. And it was like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, that's not happening.
This is what, late 90s?
This is, late 90s.
Right.
So I played drums. I'm kind of scattered here, sorry.
They're good.
But so I've always played drums, and I got to be good, you know? I'm never one of those people who is like, oh, I'm fucking awesome. I just never been that guy in my life, until like today. I was like, I'm awesome.
Until today.
Yeah, I played on something this morning. I played on this movie soundtrack this morning. I was like, dude, no one will do that better than me.
Which is okay.
Someone will do it better than me. But so basically, I was like, well, I kind of like where my daughter is right now. I was like, I want to be involved in the music business in some way. I don't know how, but I love the music business. I love music, so I would like to be in the music business. So what's the best way to do it? So I was like, oh, well, I'm an okay drummer, but I love drums. I love the technical side of drums, like putting together and all that stuff. So I was like, I should be a drum tech.
Right.
So I basically studied drums and I would take drums apart, put them back together, the whole deal, because I thought that was going to be the side of work that I was going to end up doing.
Right.
Well, I ended up in college at West Georgia, and I was like it's like UGA for a hot second, then West Georgia. But I ended up playing in a band, and we did like a little tour where we opened for this band called Southern Culture on the Skids, which is kind of funny because the drummer's girlfriend and my roommate were sisters, and we didn't know it. Mm-hmm. Like, we didn't know it until we got on that tour. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, strange. Anyway, but while I was doing that tour, my great-grandfather dies. Mm. So I have to fly home early for the funeral. I fly home, sad shit happens, blah, 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 blah. I'm at home just kind of chilling out. And then my dad gets a phone call from his buddy Tyrone that says, hey, man, does your son still play drums?
Yeah.
He goes, well, we're playing in Athens tonight, and we had to leave our drummer.
Right.
Can he play drums tonight? And he just goes, hey, you want to play drums? I was like, yeah. And I'm at this time, I'm 20 years old.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'll play drums. So I do it. I play that night, gig's over, and he just goes, hey, man, if you want to move to Nashville, you got a gig. You start in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, sweet. And so I did. And so I talked to my dad about it, and he just said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to quit college because I hate it. And I'm going to move to Nashville, and I'm going to play drums in this cover band until I get a job as a drum tech.
Right.
Because once again, I still didn't think I was good enough to play drums on the level.
Isn't that funny, man? Yeah.
And so I did that for 2 years. But when I was here, I would go to all the bars, and I would sit in, and people go, hey, man, like, if you like new country music, you would work.
Yeah.
And so I learned a bunch of country songs and started playing country bands. And then next thing you knew, like, after a year and a half of being here, I got offered like my first like artist gig with a guy named Wade Hayes. Mm-hmm. He was doing a duo with him and Mark McClure called Mick Hayes. And that was my introduction into country music, or playing country music on the road. And through those dudes, I met Tony Brown and Tim Dubois, who basically ran Universal South, but they were the dudes in the 90s. Tim he was the guy that put together Brooks and Dunn, Restless Heart, all those guys, Tony Brown, Elvis, you name it.
Yeah.
And then I got to meet James Stroud, who everybody thinks is my dad. He is. Anyway, but everybody thinks he's my dad. So that's the whole thing with that also. But I met those guys, and they started to recommend me for new artist gigs. Yeah. And different things that was popping in. And so then it just kind of happened. And I met, early on, I met a guy, Lee Kelly. I met Rich Redmond super early. Rich and Tully and those guys. I used to see those guys play at the Blues Hideaway in Kirk's dad's band.
Yeah. That's how they all met.
Yeah. So
with Kirk's dad.
Yeah. So I'd go see those guys play.
Or Kurt's dad, not Kirk. Why did I say Kirk?
Yeah. But we were all just a bunch of like dudes, it was kind of fun. I would go see those guys play, and it was fun. They're all 10 years older than me, but it just kind of happened from there. And then like it just kind of snowballed from that. And the relationships I had that I met early with Tony and Tim led to the Rodney Crowell thing. It led to almost everything I've done since then. Right. Because it was like, I kind of got like, at the age of like 23, 24, I kind of ended up getting like this weird stamp of approval from people.
You're validated.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, that guy, he'll do it.
Yeah.
He can do it. Oh, he's good. He's, weird looking, but he'll do it, and at that time there were like 4 black dudes in country music, It was like, so that was a whole thing there too. Right. But that was kind of the thing, and basically it just led from one thing to another. And honestly, I mean I've told him this before, but I credit pretty much all of my success goes back to my time with Rodney Crowell, because he was always known for hiring the best players. Right. And if you work with Rodney, you would work with anyone. Right. That's all you had to be. I remember one time I got called for a session, and they were like, "Hey, my son saw you play with Rodney Crowell at this gig, and I want to use you on my record." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I got the phone, and I was like, "That wasn't me." So I called him back, and I said, "Hey, that wasn't me. That was someone else." Mm-hmm. And the person was like, "Oh, well, thank you." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, and this is their number. You should, the person you want is this person. You should call them."
Right.
And 20 minutes later, they called me back and said, "I appreciate you being honest, and you do play drums for Rodney Crowell. I want you on this record."
So your integrity
and I was like,
won you over.
Yeah. I was like, all right.
Nice.
And I did it. And it was fun. I got to work with Jim Keltner.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
It was hilarious.
Legend.
In a very strange situation. I won't even talk about it, but very great. It was a lot of fun, very nerve-wracking, and I love Jim Keltner.
The first time I ever saw Jim Keltner speak, not even play, but speak, was on a Johnny Rabb instructional video.
Oh, yeah.
Where Johnny was showing the freehand technique to Jim Keltner. And I was like, I've always seen Johnny's ads in Modern Drummer, and he always had that cartoonish figure of himself. Dude. And then, I look at him like, oh my gosh, what in the world is he doing? He's doing a one-handed freaking drum roll.
Johnny's so great. I love him.
He's what a character.
He's like a really good buddy of mine. Yeah. I've known Johnny for 25 years.
Yeah.
Hilarious, dude.
He is a hilarious guy.
He's really funny, great drummer, really funny.
And that's the thing, is like all you guys with your personalities, podcast all the way. Oh. Like you and Kevin being on a podcast would be hilarious. I think,
I saw him yesterday.
Yeah.
Kevin's daughter lives across the street from me, so I see him quite a bit. Which is
but I mean, run it by him, because if anybody's primed for a podcast, it's that guy. Yeah. My gosh.
You should have him. I mean, I'm sure you have.
I would love to have him on. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, you should reach out to him.
Tell him the great time you had.
We're talking about Keltner. I saw Keltner do a drum clinic at PASIC. Right. And basically that program it's a 50-minute program, because that's what you do, right? So a lot of times guys will just play the entire time, or there's like instruction, whatever. And I was really, really excited to see Jim Keltner do his thing, and he had his kid up there, and in classic Keltner fashion, it was a weird kit. I think he had like a 10. I think he had like an 8-inch tom. Yeah. 14 and a 26-inch kick drum or something.
Gotta be different.
Then he had like some sort of normal cymbal, and he had a china with rivets, which ended up basically changing my life in a lot of ways, and I'll get to that in a second. But and he had set of hi-hats. But anyway, Keltner talked for 48 minutes straight. Did not play. Mm-hmm. And at the very end, he told the story of why he didn't play. He said the last time he did a PASIC event, he was out of his mind, and Jeff Porcaro was laughing at him, because Jeff was a kid at the time. He said Jeff and someone else, they were kids, laughing at him because they knew that he was not straight.
Right.
And he was trying to play, and so he decided he was never going to play again at one of those things.
Oh, wow.
And so he talked for 48 minutes, and he walked over and he hit this china with rivets on it, and he was like, "Doesn't that sound beautiful?" And that was it. And it was the best clinic I've ever seen.
Really?
Because he was 100% like transparent about everything in his life.
Right.
He kind of gave like a life story about working and all these things, and then ended with like he ended with that story, which I was just like, "Oh shit."
Because you're thinking, everyone's thinking the same thing. Okay. When are you going to play?
When are you going to play? When are you going to play? And
so Porcaro was off to the side laughing at him and kind of throwing shade?
No, they were just like a funny, because they were kids.
They're buddies.
Yeah, they were buddies. And I think he said they were, so Jeff would have been, I don't know, 18 or so. They're just kids just kind of go, "Man, look at Keltner,"
Yeah.
But in a very funny way. It wasn't like mean, it was just funny. It was a very funny exchange from where he was talking about.
And for those of you who are listening who don't know any of these guys, Keltner is like, there's a guy named John J.R. Robinson who's played on like everything. Uh-huh. You think of a hit, he's played on it. Keltner's kind of like that for the country music genre in the 80s and 90s. Right? Yeah,
and then he all the John Lennon stuff too.
Right.
Lennon and I'm sure
Larry London too.
Larry London was the dude that played on everything.
Yeah, that's right.
He was Larry
even
was the
before
guy
Eddie
that-
Bayers played on everything.
Yeah, because Larry was a drummer and Eddie was the keyboard player in that band.
Oh,
they used to play this place. I forget what it was called, but it was in Printers Alley where Larry was a drummer, Eddie was the piano player.
Huh.
And then Larry convinced Eddie to like, hey, you should play drums.
Right.
He goes, okay.
Yeah. That sounds like the guy from Lamb of God.
You know
What's his name? Chris. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
He wasn't really naturally a drummer either.
Yeah.
But he's got feet like
know.
you wouldn't all get out.
Man, I did a podcast like with a Forks Drum Closet for their like 100th year anniversary. Not 100 years, but it was like 20 year, 30 year anniversary.
Yeah.
But Jerry Croon was on it, and Jerry Croon and Larry London were neighbors in this apartment complex. And they were all, and I should say this: everybody on the panel, they were all older than me, and so they all knew Larry, and they all had Larry London stories, and it was some of the most amazing things.
Oh, I bet.
To hear,
Gosh,
like of Jerry Croon and Larry London double drumming on like Merle Haggard records.
Yeah.
And then like the shenanigans that went on behind that.
Right.
Of those guys like messing with each other.
Yeah.
You know, like doing just stupid shit to each other. You know,
trying to trip each other up.
Yeah, you know, or Eddie talking about, you know, a producer telling Larry London like, "Man, you're not really playing in time," and he was like, "I am the time."
Yeah.
You know, it's like stuff like that. You know, so. But no, there's a ton of great Larry London stories. If you ever just Google Larry London, he was amazing and unfortunately passed away actually fairly young.
Yeah, he did. I remember that. It was I want to say early 90s.
He and Porcaro died the same year.
Yeah.
Same month.
Yeah.
Even. Yeah, no.
Porcaro was a beast, man.
Yeah.
My gosh.
I went back and yesterday morning and watched that instructional video again.
Of him breaking down the Roseanne halftime shuffle.
So great.
Gosh.
It's so good.
Based on, so if anybody, again, that you're not familiar with who Jeff Porcaro is, if you've ever heard Rosanna, Africa by Toto, I mean, those are iconic, some of the most difficult drum parts to play.
Yeah. And he does it so well.
And one of the things I'll bring up is the fact that nobody ever talks about it. And when you play it right, it's in one of the most difficult, complicated drum parts to play. I don't know if you're going to guess this, but it's a unbelievably worldwide, well-known, multi-generational hit song.
Okay.
Don't Stop Believing.
Oh, very hard.
You have to play it the right way.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Which, you know how to play it, right?
I do.
Okay.
I don't do it right every time, but I know how to play it.
Well, funny, no one does. Because even Dean doesn't play it like Steve.
Oh, my gosh. What a beast he is.
Dude, so my last...
I'd love to interview him.
Going in my last year with Big and Rich, we opened for Journey. Some shows
really?
For Journey.
Wow.
And it was the year they had Narda Michael Walden on drums. Mm-hmm. And then Narda had to leave for some health reasons. And so Dean came back. Because Dean was here a lot doing the Generation Radio gig.
Okay.
But anyway, so this was like one of his first times back with them. And they were playing, and his singing is amazing.
He sounds better than the guy they got.
His singing is great.
Yeah.
And then his drumming was just ridiculous. It was like, oh, this is so good, you know. And just being like literally like being right there and just, and watching those guys and watching him do his thing was like, this is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You know,
he's a hard hitter, man.
Yeah.
He's got with finesse.
He has the power.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, so basically the current core of Journey right now was Bad English.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's right. Dean was with Bad English.
Jonathan Cain.
Jonathan Cain was with them too?
Yep. And so was Neil Sean.
Really? Well, I know the current core of Journey is Jonathan Cain and Neil Sean. So
yeah.
Valerie's out, Smith is out.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not coming back.
I think that I can't
Talk
remember
about bad business.
I can't remember if Valerie was Valerie in that band also. Was he in?
Valerie, he was one of the early guys. I mean, from I want to say late 70s.
But I'm wondering if he was in Bad English also, because I say that because John Waite was a singer,
right?
But I can't remember if he was if Ross was the bass player.
I got a funny story about John Waite. He came into the radio station here when he was dating Alison Krauss.
Oh yeah,
or that might have been on the down low. They were doing the CMA Awards, and she was covering his song, and we invited him in for something. And she came along. I've never really been starstruck because I met a lot of people throughout my radio career. And I was going back and forth trying to get everything facilitated for this performance he was going to do. Mm-hmm. He was he had the rock star thing going on. I was like, okay, dude, get over yourself. But, I turn around and I'm face to face with this woman, and I noticed her wide nose. Like immediately, she's got a wide nose, and I go, "Holy crap, you're Alison Crowell." I'm like, you're like
yeah, dude,
just a royalty of what folk.
She's great.
She's amazing.
She's great.
And,
she's
awesome. And so we were in a really tiny room. Mm-hmm. I was with a camera trying to get camera shots and everything, maneuvering around these people. And I guess at some point she tried to grab my butt. So that's my, and I told my wife that. I said, just to let you know.
Just to let you know.
Alison Krause was trying to grab my tush. And my wife's like, all right.
Yeah, she's great. Her brother's great too. Victor's great. Yeah. Great musician. I got to work with John Waite on something early. And I forget what year that was. But it was in town. And he was cool. It was, he had
a little bit of a,
It was very, I mean, we spoke for a hot second. And that was kind of the deal.
He's not in the fraternity of people that I've met that kind of vibed you.
Gotcha.
He wasn't one of those like people. Only two people that did to me was Lonnie Anderson and Robin Leach.
Robin Leach?
Yeah, Robin Leach. And I'm like, dude.
Robin Leach.
This is freaking 2002. Get over yourself. You're a freaking celebrity in the 80s.
Robin Leach.
Yeah, Robin Leach. Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Man.
Remember
I used to love that show.
Yeah. And he was total you know who I am.
I love this about myself. For whatever reason, I love that show. I used to love MTV Cribs. Yeah. It's like, for whatever reason, I like watching shows with stuff I can't fucking afford.
Yet.
I can't afford it.
You got to put yourself in the mindset like you did when you were 23 that you want to be a drum tech. I can't play. Of course you can. It's a mindset shift.
I've made millions of dollars already, but I'm not going to spend it on a house.
I just don't have it.
I don't have it. Spent it already. It's gone. It's like,
well, that's the thing is that we're talking about different things like, well, I am a millionaire because I made over $1 million. Yeah, but it took me 15 years.
Yeah.
That's well, you gotta try to do that a year.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's and then not spin it. Oh, yeah.
So if you had to, someone points a gun to your head and says you got to pick a tribute band, an artist, and stick to it for the rest of your life.
Living Color.
Wow.
Boom.
Right off the top of your head.
Oh, I know this. Yes.
Gosh.
Favorite band.
That is a great band.
Favorite band.
They are underrated. Great band. Will Calhoun is an underrated guy.
He is one of my favorites, and
he's a power player too.
One of my favorite photos is me with I got to meet him finally.
Yeah.
He played Mapex drums the same time I did, and Joe Hibbs was the art relations guy who's now passed on. Mm. And the last photo that I took with Joe Hibbs was with was me meeting Will Calhoun. Joe passed away like 3 weeks after that.
Will Calhoun put a bad taste in my mouth because he kind of threw shade at Neil at one point.
I don't know that story.
It might have been in a Modern Drummer article, and I was like, but I'm kind of over it now. I'm way over it. But I mean, it's one of those things that you just got to admire the guy for his talent. I mean, he was amazing.
Oh, dude. Yeah. And they're still going, man. They're still.
Are they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Vernon Reed still.
Dude, the whole. Yeah. Everybody's there. Muggs is not there, the bass player. So it's Doug Winbush,
right?
Who's like amazing.
So another thing, I'm going to get to this because we're
oh, sorry,
probably you're fine.
Sorry.
So we're going to ask you,
what's your
a lot of production elements in this show. What is your problem? What kind of things are you facing? I know that before we started, you were talking about, hey, I'm at a certain point in my life, and I want to.
My problem is setting up the next 20 years of my life, hopefully 40 years of my life.
Totally.
But yes, that's where I'm at right now. I left a really great thing to basically start, because that thing is going to eventually go away.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against anybody. It's just going to go away. But I'm still going to be here. So my biggest thing right now is, as I told someone just the other day, because I'm always talking to people. That's my whole thing now. Just fucking talking all the time. That's all I do is talk.
That's relationship building, man. That's awesome.
But it's just bouncing things off people that you've known and whatever. But the biggest problem that I have is I forgot how hard it was to start over.
Right.
I forgot how hard it was when I moved here to get to where I am at right now. And so I'm essentially, even with the connections that I have and people that I know, I am starting over.
Right.
Because I'm not doing a whole lot of road dates anymore. I'm doing more studio stuff. I'm having a home studio from home. I'm doing some writing.
Right.
I'm doing all these things that I didn't do before, which I probably should have hopefully got all together many years ago. But in Nashville in those years, studio drumming and touring drumming were very different. You didn't do both.
Right.
Rich,
Now you can.
Yeah. Rich is one of the first guys to kind of do that, you know, kind of thing. So anyway, so that's where I'm at right now. So my biggest thing is making enough money.
Right. Figuring out where you're nut every year. You know?
Yeah, well, basically it's like, how do you go from making this much money with doing this thing and a few other things to making this money and not doing that one thing that gave you the bulk of the money, and you have to do it elsewhere.
Right.
While also keeping your sanity.
Yeah, that's the thing, and keeping it congruent with what you already do.
Exactly, yeah.
And I'll say right now, your mindset is not wrong, but I'll kind of propose a shift, right? Because it's not starting over. All you're doing is shifting and pivoting.
Totally, yeah.
So, because you already have the bandwidth, you have the legacy, the reputation leading into this already. Yeah. So it's easier in a way. Plus, all the the mileage behind you to shape you as a human and what to do, what not to do. And it's figuring out what is congruent. So basically, I go through this exercise with people a lot. You put yourself at the middle of a piece of paper, put a circle around it. You draw lines out from the circle. Okay, one line might be studio gigs. Yeah. And how much can I make a year doing studio gigs? And you put the number on it. You don't want to do touring anymore, right?
I mean, I do, but
sparingly, right? Maybe a weekend here and there. Yeah. Offshoot touring. How much does that bring in?
Yeah.
Offshoot another thing. It could be, writing. Is it lucrative anymore?
If you
it can be. Yeah. If you write a hit, but you're with 5 or 6 other people mostly.
Yeah.
It's a narrower slice of the pie.
Yeah.
So there's also a lot of other things, especially with a personal brand, because you have that going for you too.
Yeah, I'm a brander.
Like right now, Rich and I are working on we're going to talk about working on a project that could, be mailbox money for he and I.
Oh, cool.
And I proposed it to him. I'm like, dude, we need to do this. I've seen you do this. Nobody's doing this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And there's other elements of that you start mapping out, right? Yeah. Because what do you want to remove? What hurts about the last 5-10 years that you want to stop doing?
Ooh. Actually, what's funny is nothing does.
Right. You're just thinking about as
it's just me
body parts fail and all that stuff.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. One of the most real things I had this year was I had a massive hand injury and I had a bad knee injury. Oof. And I could not play drums.
Left or right?
Right.
Both. Oh, your kick drum knee.
Both.
Your kick drum knee. Is that a thing?
Yeah. It is when I'm kicking it. Yeah. And I wasn't kicking. Yeah. I wore a knee brace for like 6 weeks.
Oh, man.
And then my hand, I messed up. It's better. Yeah. But it's kind of weird. Like, look at that.
So on your right hand and your right knee.
Yeah, look at that. Wow. So this one extends all day. This one does not.
And that's your leading hand.
That's the hand there, man. Yeah. So so this was a year of figuring out stuff.
Which is okay.
I could still play. I just couldn't play I couldn't play super hard. I couldn't play super hard. I could still play like sessions. I was still able to work,
right?
But just not. But there was, just the reality of like being 43 kicked in, which is not old, but when you go from playing 75 shows a year on the road and just traveling all the time to like not doing that stuff, you don't realize the exercise. I'm just going to use it that way. I'm not going to say wear and tear because it's not in some ways, but you don't realize the exercise that your body was going through until you do it away from that. Like even traveling, like, man, I would get on a plane. I get on a plane every day for 6 years, and it wouldn't bother me at all. And I can still get on that. It doesn't bother me, but like, I go to the airport now. I get on a plane. I sit there, and I'm just like, man, plane.
It's annoying.
As before, it was like, oh, this is everyday life.
Yeah. Well, playing, I get that, and it's as you go through your 40s, you're going to experience that it gets worse.
Yeah.
Like in my case, I discovered in my late 30s, early 40s, I'd get on a plane and also all of a sudden my head, I felt like someone had a hot poker in my ear. Oh, and it might have been congestion or something. Yeah. Never happened in my 20s.
Yeah.
But now it's starting to happen to me, and I'm looking at it going, okay, what do I need to do to overcome this? So I got to get, ear planes, maybe some, drainage type of medication to make sure it doesn't happen. But I can't stand flying. If I could drive somewhere, I will.
Yeah, I'm not a big flyer, especially like I got lucky, man. We flew private a lot in the last few years, so it was real cool.
That's a cool thing.
That was real cool. Even though it freaked me out, it would freak me like because they fly higher than commercial.
Yeah, they're about 40,000 feet, I think, 45.
Yeah, and they zoom.
Yeah.
So,
they're doing about 700 miles an hour.
It's like, so if it but.
It's a long dart flying through the air.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but thinking about all those different things and how you can pivot, because the same thing happened to me when I was 37. So I got out of radio when I was 37, had a little bit of an offshoot into the auto body business. Mm-hmm. And then I got into the car business. Right. Completely different from anything I've ever done.
Yeah.
Thought I was a decent salesperson. Then that was put to the test. And I realized I was a decent salesperson, not a decent closer. But I had to fix that and learn how to do that. Best educational experience of my life.
Oh, cool.
3 years, right? Got out of that business, went into something else for a season. And then I found myself at the age of 40 with a house, mortgage, kids, wife, health insurance, car payments, all the stuff. One paycheck to go because I got let go from a job. That was not fun.
Yeah.
But my back was against the wall. Got to make stuff happen. Yep. What can I do? What am I good at? So even though it wasn't radio, I know I'm good at video. I'm good at audio production, voiceover, things of that nature. Let's see what I can do. I haven't looked back since.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
good.
Yeah, kind of same kind of situation.
Yeah, totally.
Your back's not against a wall, though.
No, not yet. Next week. But no, you're right, though. I mean, and that's the other thing, too, man. It's like I have stayed positive through the whole thing. Like, it's because, like, leaving something doesn't have to be a negative experience.
Right.
And so my whole thing was, I was like, I want to be... when you're on the road, you're not being very creative. I'm a very creative person. I like to create things. So the whole thing is I wanted to be able to create stuff. I wanted to do more sessions, do more whatever, anything that just involved me like taking stuff and hitting it and making noises. Yeah. And people going, man, that's cool. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I even made like some like weird 16-inch snare drums that a lot of guys in town are using now.
Nice.
That they're like, oh, dude, what is that?
So product development might be a thing for you.
Yeah, well, I'm into it. So there are definitely different avenues of things that I like to do. And I did audition for a couple of road gigs and I didn't get them, and one of the things that I had to I had to have to sit down with myself because they were like next level gigs, and that just didn't happen for me. But I had to say to myself, you're not a bad drummer, you're not a bad person, just that they didn't need what you have to offer at the time.
Right.
And that's okay. And
it might be something that's telling you it's time to shift.
Yeah. And it was also like, man, I'm cool. Like if the Eagles don't need me, they don't need me.
Right.
I'm okay with it.
Right.
I'm not really okay with it, but
right. Wait, the Eagles, the football team or the band?
Band.
Yeah.
The football team probably needs me.
Yeah. They totally need you.
Yeah.
Especially after this past game.
After this past game.
The Jets beat them for crying out loud.
The Jets beat them. I haven't watched football in forever. Right. I watched that game and I was like, wow. I don't think that's supposed to happen.
You got to wonder if Aaron Rodgers has got that much of an influence from the sidelines. I guess he does.
I guess he does, yeah. I mean, look at Deana.
Yeah,
that's
true.
I don't know. I don't know how many more games they've won since that first couple, but man, what a fire he lit on that entire town, that entire campus.
Yeah,
that one dude came in. It's just like, here you go.
He's got that aura,
dude. Their ticket sales, everything.
Yeah,
like that guy coming in there blew up. Like what a
juggernaut.
What a great business decision.
Yeah.
But and it's so funny. Like we have to jet, but like it's so funny.
I'm honoring your time.
Oh yeah, so. I have to jet too in a minute. I'm gonna go see Wheeler Walker Jr. tonight, which is fucking crazy. Anyway, and I have to go home and edit some stuff too. But one of the things that actually I talk about with Kevin and a few other people, as side guys, we talk about guys like Steve Gadd.
Yeah,
and we talk about guys who make good money, Steve Jordans of the world, Steve Gadd, the Steves.
Yeah.
And they have I'm going to call it the Deana effect.
Right.
People go, man, like, because once again, we talk about business and people want to go talk about money and getting paid because everybody wants to get paid. Everybody wants to make the most money they can. They want to get what they deserve, what they are worth, whatever, how it goes, right? And one of the things that we always talk about is how Steve Gadd puts butts in seats.
Yeah.
Steve Jordan does the same thing. Manu Katché does that thing.
Yeah.
Dave Buckle does that thing.
Kenny Aronoff
does that thing, right? So when you get to that level where a percentage of the audience is there to see you, you can then demand or ask for what you're worth.
And you got to be aware of that.
You have to be aware of it.
Yeah.
Now, as we all know,
the bane of a creative is assessing value of what they do.
Yeah.
And then the salesmanship it takes to ask for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, as we all know, in the country world, most people aren't there to see us. But you can provide a certain skill set that people want to have. And that skill set is comfort.
Yeah.
And if you provide your artists with a certain set of comfort, they will indeed pay for it.
And honestly, buddy, that goes back to personal branding.
Yeah.
You know, building up that brand of yours on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, whether it's, you know, playing riffs or whatever, showing them you're cooking food, whatever.
Yeah.
People follow you for a reason. You're entertaining. You've got that whatever they call it, that charisma.
That's something.
You know, and Aronoff did that because people knew him from Mellencamp.
Yeah, he was the first one.
Right.
He was the first.
He's a beast. Now he's got a podcast.
Yeah, he was the first.
Crushing it.
He was kind of he was like the first drummer self-promoter guy who wasn't like a leader of a band.
Right. And he proved it could be done.
And he proved that it could be done.
Yeah.
I see a lot of that in Rich. You know, I'm not sure if Rich says he's one of his guys or not, but I see a lot of that in what Rich does.
Yeah. I agree.
And but the thing is, the thing with Kenny and the thing with Rich is that if you do that, you got to be able to back it up.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, you know, all fire. You can't be like, and then someone's like, all right, do something. You're like, you know what I mean? You gotta, you basically, you gotta be able to back it up. And that's another part of your business. Is you can't be able to, you know.
To your point about Aronoff, there was, we saw Michelle Branch in Vegas at the Hard Rock, I want to say. And we had backstage, we met her and everything. And when it came time for her to take the stage, she came out and then the rest of the band came out. Mm-hmm. Just as many people cheered for him as her. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. That's the first time I realized, wow, that's an interesting dynamic. Yeah. That's what a paradigm shift there.
And dude, and people, I mean, people are aware of that too, man. It's like when you look at some of these bands, I mean, Peter Gabriel's band right now, it's basically the Secret World live band, but all those guys are rock stars. Yeah. I mean, the guy playing drums that no one sees was literally the judge on like American Idol for French. It was Manu Katché. Right.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and then Tony Levin's on bass.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, people come, like, those guys are selling tickets. Yeah. You know, I'm not selling tickets I wasn't selling tickets for Big and Rich.
Ringo Starr's All-Star Band.
That's a really great example of it. Yeah. I mean, like, those guys, someone is there to see, I mean, everybody's there to see Ringo, but people are there to see Lukather. People are there to see Greg Bissonette. Yep. You know?
And also his brother's on bass, right? Bissonette, Matt Brother, yeah.
So, you know, like people.
That's my bass move.
Yeah. People are there to see those guys. And so, you know, you can then, you know, if you know your worth, you'll get the money you want. If you don't want the money, that's also fine too. You know?
And it's one of the things I actually teach that to creatives in the voiceover videography space is how to place value and how to, you know, basically posture and then build the value and then ask for the sale. Yeah. You know. And it's a lot of people just don't know how to do that because they go by, well, Union does this and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it's like, I just recently discovered that the GVAA, I can't remember the name. It's a rate guide for voiceover people, Greater Voices Association of America, I think it's called. And I looked at their rate guide for a recent project. I'm going, wow, I'm really undercharging. So you know what? I'm like, hey, according to this guide, this is what it should be. Is that fair?
Totally, yeah.
And I always ask that question because it's what they call a trial close question. Does that work?
Yeah.
I never ask it with an upward lilt. Yeah. Does that work?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I always ask it with a downward. And I was taught that in a training that I had a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Ask it as it's like even as a drum fill, jung, right? Yeah. We always go down.
Yep.
Why do we do that? Because it's a statement.
Yep.
You know, and it's like one of those things that even in communication, when you're asking a question, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And people do exactly that. You get a positive affirmative answer from it.
Yeah, man. I'll say you this. That was one of the things that I had to do pre-Big and Rich, and then also post, was especially I would get the phone call like day of, hey man, can you do this?
Yeah.
Can you learn 18 songs, get on a plane, and play this arena with no rehearsal?
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, I can do it, and I would do it.
Yeah.
And people know I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it. If there's anything I can say I can do, I can do that.
I'm gonna do it. And you're not saying it. And I'll figure it out later. You know you can do it.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I know that you're calling me because you need to get paid, and you got to pay everybody else.
That's right.
Which means I got to get paid.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, you need me more than I need you.
So at that point, what do you ask? So what's your budget?
So no, I just go, this is what I need.
Right.
And even if and I will say this, even if they were to pay me more, if my number is under their number,
yeah, I'm
still getting the number that I want.
Right. But don't you feel like you're leaving money on the table?
No. Because I just go, that's it. If I go, I'm just going to throw this out there. Just say, I'm just going to use $1,000 as an example. So I'll go, all right, this is what I need. If I'm, especially if you call me the day before, that means my day is done because I have to learn your 18 songs.
Right.
So that's $1,000. Right. And then I'm going to come out and play. That's another $1,000. So it's $2,000 for the 2 days. Right. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's fine by me. Now, say the gig normally pays $3,000 a day. I'm still okay with it because this is what I wanted.
Right.
Now, if I were to settle for less than what I wanted, then I'm not okay with it.
Well, that ties into what do you want to do? Where do you want to be in 20 years or 10 years?
Alive.
Of course.
Alive.
But I mean, what does it look like though? Are you got some residual money, mailbox money, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I've been, because one of the fun things is that throughout being here, I have been writing some.
Yeah.
And doing TV stuff and having some sync stuff. So like, I have some of that happening. But basically, man, in 20 years, I hope to be working with my kid.
Yeah.
At doing something. I hope to be happy at whatever it is that I'm doing. And I know it sounds super silly and probably very blanky, but as someone who's not always happy, the goal in life is to be happy.
I have a monetary goal for myself. By the time I'm in my mid 50s, right, pushing up to 60, have a net worth of at least 5 to 10 mil.
Yeah.
And that's a goal because the reason why I have that number is because you can live comfortably off. It generates money.
Totally.
The other element of it is the fact that the first part of my adult professional life was in radio, and we were also a single income family. Mm-hmm. My wife stayed home with the kids, so a lot of the excess went into that. We didn't have any excess money until recently. So that was one of the things that I always look at, and I tell my kids, we didn't have a college account because all the college account went into making sure mom was home with you.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference maker.
It went into food account.
Right.
It went in your mouth.
So, right now we're figuring out college for my daughter, who's she's kind of keen on it. And we put some money into a program where she's boosting her ACT scores and also looking into scholarships and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
And it's well worth it. She'll probably, hopefully get a nearly free ride somewhere. So all day long.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when it comes back to that, guys, kids, I don't want to be a burden on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, totally.
I don't want to you have to financially take care of us.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll say that. So for me, like as a financial goal in 20 years is to be better off than I am now.
Right.
One of those situations where like, I would love to have $5 to $10 million in the bank.
Right.
I would be great. I'd love to have $20 million in the bank.
No, that would be even better.
But ultimately and this is a true story for me, because I am one of those people where I'm not driven by finances, unfortunately. Right. Business, I'm not driven by finances. I am not completely driven by finances. What I am driven by is being positive, and from being positive and doing things that I love to do, the finances have always came in.
Right.
And they've always come in and more than I thought would ever happen.
That's purpose. It's your purpose that actually, and that's another thing is like, when you retire, I don't want to retire.
I'm never going to retire.
I always want to have purpose.
I'm never going to retire.
Right?
I'm always going to be this weird dude that plays drums. I'm just gonna be that guy.
That's what I play in a cover band on the beach. I mean, is that so much to ask?
I'm not a big beach guy.
I love the beach.
But I love Key West though.
Key West is it rocks.
I love Key West because they don't have a beach.
I like Marathon because my wife and I spent our 20th anniversary in Marathon, and we had a blast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go to Key West.
I was
I go to Key West like 3 times a year, man.
Yeah, they have a big songwriting festival.
I go to the songwriting festival. There's a Texas Country Music Festival down there to go to. Sometimes I just go. My best friend Paul loves Key West.
Of course he does.
That's another thing. Paul is like, dude, let's go to Key West.
Does he live here in town?
He does. Yeah, he lives here. Yeah.
Nice.
So he and I gotta go to Key West. Man, this is like, I'm telling you,
you got your best friend.
I'm telling you, I got my best friend Paul. You know, so and this, I will say this: if I could, if it got to the point where doing remote sessions was really a big thing for me, I would absolutely 100% move to Key West.
Right.
I would move, or if my daughter was living somewhere and say grandkids, whatever.
Well, there you go.
I would absolutely move there and continue to do that thing.
Well, you can do again. That goes back to personal branding because all of a sudden, people from all over the world can hire you.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's essentially what I'm doing now. I just do it from here because I still.
I mean, is the element of having to go to a studio, is that kind of going out the window?
It depends. There's like everything kind of goes and trends and back and forth.
Right.
And now it's getting to a point where actually financially, it's actually cheaper to go into a studio and record.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, because by the time you say time-wise and finances, it's just like a horrible sales pitch for my home studio. But anyway, but by the time you pay $250, $300, sometimes $1,000 a song per 8 players, you could have come to Nashville.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Done it on the card, paid everybody double scale, gotten 5 or 6 songs for the price you paid for one.
Right, okay, I see.
But if you're just doing one song and it has to be done in like immediately, and you want certain people on it, and the only way to get certain people on it is to do it remotely, then that's a thing, and that is a thing, where you're like, I want to have Steve Jordan on drums, and the only way to get Steve Jordan on drums is for him to play at his house, because I'm not going to fly Steve Jordan to Nashville or to LA or wherever and put him up and all that stuff. I can just do it from here, It
reminds me of the conversation we had on Rich's show. We had Jim Riley on, and we got it. I don't know if it was on the show or off the air, that we got into the rate that he charges per song when he does remote. And it was like surprising, like, really, dude? You need to be charging more, And I kind of had that conversation with him. And he's like looking at me and I'm going, dude, that's ridiculously low,
okay.
I mean, how long does it take you to do a song?
I can't tell you because it'd be my secret. Secret be out.
Okay, but what's the average that most drummers take?
But I'll say this: if you're doing 3 takes of a song and you're engineering and so you're doing some post stuff,
there's some time in there.
30 minutes a song,
right?
If you're doing all that,
right?
And I know how much he was charging. I'm not sure if he's still doing that or not,
right?
But I don't like that he was doing that,
right?
And whatever he may hear to say whatever, I don't care,
right?
Because it ended up like that undercuts other people, which is okay and not okay, because you don't want to lower. We're already, as musicians, we're already facing the fact that people don't want to pay us for stuff,
right?
Because it's fun, right? You need to be doing it, So you have to. Anything you do should be at a certain rate. Like I have a rate that I charge, and that's my rate,
right?
But if you're my friend,
it's a better rate.
It's a different rate.
Yeah.
And if you're someone that hires me all the time, that's another rate. And
that's bulk pricing.
And if you're someone that calls me and you say, hey, man, I want you to play on this and I have no money right now, I say, I will do it. But if you don't pay me, I know you didn't pay me and you know you didn't pay me.
Yeah.
And that's it. And they go, got it.
I know where you live. I know where your wife goes to shop when kids go to school.
But it was funny though is that's worked out for me because the people that I say, hey man, just pay me whenever you can.
Yeah.
They pay me the full rate, even though I would give them a buddy rate.
Right.
They end up paying me a full rate because they say, hey man, thanks for doing this when I had no money.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I violated my own rules recently. I was asked to work on Labor Day for a podcast, and this person was telling me all the people that he had lined up to be on this, reserve Labor Day and the day after and do all these things. And he says, make sure we got performance space and everything. And he was talking to a studio downtown, and I'm going, okay, what do I need to bring? He said, well, bring this. Okay. And then all of a sudden the studio is out. He's like, hey, can I record at your place? I'm like, well, we can do the podcast section. I don't really have a place for you to, it's in disarray right now.
Yeah.
We don't have really a performance space. But I know a guy down here in Spring Hill. And I called him up. Hey, what's your rate? I'll let him know, blah, blah, blah. We get to this thing. And this is a guy I've known for years. Yeah. And other people have known him. And he basically comes to the table. It was the most bizarre experience because I'm going, okay, we're all set up. When's the first person arriving? He goes, I think they're going to be here at 11. I'm going, it's 9 o'clock. What are we doing? He's like, well, you want to, I'll interview you. Okay, fine. Let's sit down and do a podcast. We did it, put it out there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now what are we doing? Who else is coming? What time? Well, I don't know if they're coming. Dude.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Do you have any? Well, the person who's paying, because he told me this, that he says, whatever you charge, times it by 7. I go, I'll just charge you what I charge. All right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I said, so who's this guy that's fronting all the money? He said, I think it's Elon Musk. Okay, we're done. True story, dude.
Oh.
True story. Yeah. And if he listens to this, he's probably going to know it's him. But it's one of those things I'm like, because I'm kind of livid about it.
Yeah,
because I've put my time aside, on a holiday, and I violated my own rules, and I'm still waiting to get paid.
Yeah,
and I'm on his ass like freaking Tony Soprano.
Yeah, I don't work on holidays.
Oh, buddy. And it was one of the things. I'm like, I've got egg on my face because a guy that barely knows me, I've championed him, and now he's waiting to get paid.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, and thankfully, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that will never happen again.
Yeah, don't do that.
So everybody can find and follow you on Instagram at, what did I say from the last time? Blassie Yoda?
Blassie Yoda. Yeah, man. Black Yoda. No K. BLACYODA. Find me
is
there.
That all that's your tag for everything, for Facebook or just Instagram?
Just Instagram. Facebook is like my family stuff. I don't even I post like stupid shit on there where I'm just like, hey, I wish I was in Dire Straits. Or I can't believe Drumeo doesn't know who Mark Brzezicki is.
Right.
That still pisses me off. Anyway, I that's just, and Facebook is just my way from my family and Christina's family to see our daughter.
As a show, that's what it was designed for.
I don't do a lot of business there. I will talk about fun things that happen in life. Yeah. Like I did like the Opry thing last week with Sarah Evans where she got inducted in the Opry and it was the 98th birthday. So it was like, oh, here, you can, post. But I posted on both. But Instagram is kind of my thing. Twitter or X, I don't really care. I don't really get on that a whole lot.
I'm like that too.
OnlyFans, I'm not really doing that a whole lot anymore.
Right. It's always the feet.
So funny story. When it first came out, it was for literally like not that.
Right. It was like Patreon.
Yeah. So I created an account to do drum stuff.
Right. Which you still can.
Which I still can. Yeah. And it's because people still do that on there. Like it's
do.
It's just not the other stuff.
It became widely known for the other stuff. It became
widely known for that because it was generating a ton of money.
Yeah.
I know a person on there who makes $100,000 a month.
It's crazy.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I know.
Makes you rethink everything. I know.
And she only gets $3 a month from me. Anyway, but anyway, I did do that, and I was like, this would be a cool thing, and then it just took off the other way. And I was like, I still have it as a joke. Right. Like I'll give it out to people. Like, hey, here you go.
Here's my OnlyFans.
Because if you post a photo, it'll print like OnlyFans and the thing on, right? And your tag on the photo. So sometimes I will send it to people. Go, yeah, man, I got OnlyFans.
That's awesome.
It's just, and it's usually me shirtless behind the drum set. Right. So anyway, this is a very true story. But anyway, all that being said, the Instagram is kind of my thing. first of all, I'm actually obsessed with photos.
Yeah.
I love photos. I love videos. So, and I like to share them. I like to look at them. And I like them because it's, obviously you can type a little thing about it, but it's just not people blurting out opinions about stuff that matter, don't matter, whatever.
Right.
It's just like, it's a photo. And it's usually someone posting a happy photo. It usually is something that it moves you in some sort of way.
Right.
And you can interpret how you want to interpret. So I like it that way. So I'm like, I want my business model to be on Instagram because you can see me playing drums and be like, oh, that guy's happy, or man, that guy plays great, or you can say that guy should not be so happy, he plays horrible.
Right.
And that's it is what it is. Either way, it's a like, or it's a click or whatever. So
yeah.
But anyway,
I've seen your engagement. You get it. You got good engagement.
Yeah, life's good.
People like you.
I'm not sure why.
Do you have a website at all?
No.
You should.
I've been anti-website for a long time.
Just buy one.
All right.
Yeah. Have a landing page where people could find the links at least.
All right,
it's part of your personal brand.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Personalbrand.com. That's right. Buy KeioStroud.com at least without the website before somebody else takes it. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
A buddy of mine has it, actually.
He
did.
He bought it out from underneath you?
Yeah, he did.
Will
He bought all of our. He'll probably give it to me.
Yeah.
He bought all of our names. We were all in a band together. He bought everybody's name.
Oh my god!
And was like, "I'll sell it to you." And I was like, "Dude, no."
I'll sell it to you. Well, that's okay. I'm just going to get KeioStroudDrummer.com.
Yeah, no, he's loaded now. He don't care. So anyway.
Well, there you go, man. For all things, we'll put all the information down in the description. If you want to follow Keio, I certainly would recommend it. And of course, what'syourproblempodcast.com. Please follow, rate, I told you how to find us. Yeah. Follow, rate, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Again, the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal for this year and next, 10,000 average downloads per on an annualized basis. Let's go with that. And I'm just going to put it out there. So please help us out. Keio, always a great conversation, my friend.
Dude, yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.